Hey everybody, SketchUp Live. It's Friday and I'm Eric. I'm back. You haven't seen me in a little while. I was co-hosting and now I'm in the hot seat. So speaking of co-hosts, who do I have with me today?
Hey, it's Matt.
Hey, his energy
Hey,
level's way higher than
yeah,
mine.
SketchUp Live Day, everybody.
Yeah, thanks Matt for coming along and joining me on our little SketchUp landscape detail journey today. For those of you that didn't tune in last week, I co-hosted with Aaron and he had some fun. Matt, you checked that one out, right? You were able to see what he was doing, what he was working on.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Construction detail.
Construction details. So he was looking at some framing and some walls and some waterproofing, a lot of things that I don't know very much about. Insulation. My background's landscape architecture, so when you look at things like, weep holes in concrete poured in place, seat walls, that's kind of my language. So what we're going to do is we had so much fun. We want to carry this through for another session, but we're going to do it a little bit different. One thing we didn't do last time is we didn't get into layout. So one thing I want to do is make sure that I give myself enough time to take a construction detail into layout so that we can add another level of detail. I might use that word a lot if you haven't already picked that up, to our SketchUp model. So we're going to be going from, it's a little bit weird, we're going to be taking something that is traditionally viewed in 2D, which is in CAD. We're going to go 3D, and then if we want to, we're going to go back well, depending on how we want to display it, we may go back to 2D. So we're going to be kind of in all kinds of states of dimension. I don't know.
Multi-dimensional
Multi-dimensional. We're
travel.
going to be
Hopefully,
going multi-dimensional here. That's what we're going to do. So
see if we
Matt,
can get to uh,
one
one dimension
dimension.
by the end of the night.
One
Yeah,
dimension. I'm actually going to use that as a plug. I'm going to hang on because we have an announcement. I don't want to forget it. So I'm going to shrink myself so I'm not blocking my screen. And then I want to, speaking of dimensions, let me do that.
beautiful. Look at this segue, folks. He's a pro.
It's almost like we planned it. So look, I can see your comments coming in. Actually, it's over here. It's the opposite. I'm mirrored. Comments, come on in, bring them in. Let us know where you're from on the chat while I kind of do some housekeeping items. And then we're going to kind of get started. We're going to do this. So if I open up this here, we've got, speaking of dimensions, so we always you're going to hear us plug Dimensions plus Basecamp, which is in November in Las Vegas. You're going to hear us say that probably for the next month or so, month and a half. Actually, it's coming up pretty quick. No, 2 months. It's coming up in November. So we have under enter a challenge. Now I've already plugged the out of this world AR competition. That's my baby. That one closed. So thank you all who submitted to that. We've got some really great entries, but I want to go down a little bit further and I want to click on this one, what's called Community Art Gallery. So for those that haven't seen this, we do have a deadline coming up in just under a month for submitting your own designs. So this could be your residential building projects. It could be some sci-fi spaceship artwork that you do. Matt, what are some things that you come to mind that you've seen in the past that would be really inspirational for people to enter this competition? Not really
Well,
competition.
I love the community art gallery from last time because there was such a look at that construction detail right there.
There you go.
On the left side there, Aaron
Oh,
could
oh yeah,
submit
look at
his
that.
from the last live stream. So what I think is so cool is you can see in here the variety of different stuff, right? There's some like kind of exterior, almost like fantasy looking renders, some like sci-fi,
Some film
interiors
stuff,
with moody
classical.
lighting and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just like the variety of, obviously we get the super cool architectural like ArcViz renders and stuff. But hey, the variety is cool because there's so many different kinds of things that people are working on when it comes to Basecamp, and the art gallery, reflects that as well.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. So that's also just a way to get represented. So whether you're attending the conference or not, you can get your work shown and your name and get some credit for it. So that's it. You can see there's a form. You can do that. Speaking of forms, we've got one more thing. And speaking of submitting and getting your work shown, we have a social challenge coming up. This is not related to Basecamp, but it's called the Coffee Shop Challenge, and you'll see it soon coming out on all of our social channels. Just want to kind of give it a sneak preview plug. The same coffee shop that we built here on our live stream through a series. You remember Tyson did some furnishings, Aaron did the interior counter and bar and coffee machine, and I did sort of the exterior shell and all that fun stuff. We are going to give it over to you to visualize it in your own way. So basically, we're just going to give you a starter model. We'd love to see what you do with it. So you can kind of make it your own. I don't know all the details. I think some more information is going to come once this competition launches. It's not a competition, it's just a challenge. It's just for you guys to come and engage with us. So heads up, coffee shop challenge coming up on our social channels. Keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, I
Bam.
like it. And a lot, probably a lot more fun than the last coffee shop challenge I was a part of, trying to drink a gallon of coffee in 1 hour.
Yeah, well, you can't do, Matt, little advice, don't just do whatever they say the kids are doing on TikTok, like, drinking a gallon of cold brew, like, not a good idea, especially right before a live
Everybody's
stream.
doing it. I thought it would be, fun, and I would have a little pep in my step. I was awake for 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's right. You're always low
Um,
energy on these streams, Matt, so definitely need to perk things up a bit.
yeah, I should mention I took the coffee shop challenge 1 hour ago. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, no, that is a cool thing to see your, the same model visualized in different people's styles. I'm psyched to see the the output of that, the creativity from the entire community coming together in the coffee shop challenge. So yes, I forgot to drop the link, but I will drop that in the chat too for folks who want to have a go at rendering that coffee shop model from our live streams.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks, Matt. And yep, so everyone, let us know if there's anything new going on with you as you come in. I'm going to get started here with just so that we are efficient with our time. I want to start sort of the same way that we started last time. And again, I'm not going to refer too much to what Aaron did because there's going to be some similarities, there's going to be some differences, but basically, this is what we're doing. And I want to sort of look at sort of the advantages to showing our work in 3D, not just showing it in 3D, but actually when you have a 3D, you can show the same detail from different angles, or you can show something like a larger piece of a project and you can cut a section slice to it, or you can, again, you can combine, you can kit up parts, these kinds of things. So I thought maybe this would be fun to just sort of start to build up a 3D library of my own, and then who knows, what could be done with it. So I do have this reference sheet. I'm going to give a shout out to an old buddy and coworker in my landscape days when I was in Oregon. His name is Nate Kappen, and he owns his own little landscape shop. And I asked him for some details, and he said, yeah, you can borrow some of mine for a project for a little lakeside house that he was working on, which I'll give you a little sneak preview of later. But so that's why I wanted to make sure I was working with something that has some realism to it. What I don't want to do is grab something that I either don't know anything about or grab something that just isn't correct. I've been known from time to time to make mistakes in my videos. If you've seen my crown molding video recently that came out on YouTube, you'll know what I'm talking about. So
hey, I loved it. All the information was there. Who needs nomenclature anyways? Before we get too deep into the modeling part, there's one technical thing. It looks like a couple of people in the chat mentioned that your audio is a little low, so I wonder if we can just clear that up real quick.
Well, it could be because I'm leaning back, so I could either adjust my mic, or if that doesn't work, I can let's go ahead and go into
audio mixer on the bottom there. There's a tab.
Yep, I know where that is. Okay, yeah, I should be peeking into my yellow. So settings,
filters,
and
just change this output gain a little bit higher.
All right, we're gonna push my gain up to, what do you think? That's doubling it. That's about. I think what it is Matt might be louder than me. How's that?
No way.
No. I think you are. Okay,
yeah, it looks like you're good there.
All right. We're just going to run with it. Thanks, everyone, for
You should be all good technical-wise now. Thanks, everybody, for noting the audio discrepancy. But, hey, I'm psyched to get into these real-world details.
Yep, and you'll notice I changed my hat. So I've got my contractor's hat on today. So instead of being design, I'm ready to get into the field and get my hands dirty. So let's do this. Let's just do it. And then, Matt, let me know if there's any questions or comments, or if anyone has any tips, because I might ask for some help from the audience as we go. So let's kind of get started. I always just kind of talk and think. I ask myself questions and say, how would I start this? I don't know. First thing I probably want to do is get this detailed sheet to scale. So there may be a scale reference on there, but what I would probably do is just come in, set it to plan view, set it to ortho, and find something that I know would be a typical scale. Or I can look at a reference in here, like if this is 6 inches. Now 6 inches is kind of a small thing to grab, but I could look at something like this, and this is 2.5 foot, which is the sort of height of the seat wall. It's not really a seat wall, it's kind of a planter wall. So I might try to grab that, which makes sense because the railing then would be 3 feet. So what I would do is just find something that I know is a fixed distance and type in 3 feet. It's going to ask me, do I want to resize this group? You'll notice I did it inside of a group because if I did it outside of the group, it would resize everything. Of course, if there's nothing in the model and it's just blank, then you don't need to add that extra like container group. I also have not exploded this, and the reason why is because sometimes you'll see here, sometimes what I like to do is look at my model in hidden line style. So if you do hidden line style, what it'll do is it'll override the texture. So there's no reason for me to explode this image until I have to. I also like that it's a PDF. So Matt, remind me, I haven't used Windows in a long time. I think you use Windows more than I do. But do you have, can we import PDFs yet into Windows or no? Because I think that might be a Mac only thing. You may have to bring it in as a JPEG or a PNG.
Yeah, not without extensions.
Without an extension, yeah. So that's
I think it was a limitation of the operating system, unfortunately. But there are some extensions out there that'll let you import PDFs natively, or you can, like you said, convert to PNG or something and then import them. We did have one question on textures and materials. Colin asked, what's your max texture size set to?
I just set it to the max texture size, which is, it only gives you two options. If you go over to settings or preferences, and you come over here to graphics, then you should be able to see right here under graphics settings, use maximum texture size. So I do that. Now, that's a good point. If you have a pixelated image, I've got a whole detail sheet, and now I'm probably not going to draw all of these details. We'll do as many as we'll do more than one, hopefully, but even if we just get one done, that's okay. But the point is that if you have a giant sheet size, right, it's going to sort of still compress that image to whatever SketchUp's maximum texture resolution is. So if you have something with really small details, you may want to just clip out just that detail. Like if I was only going to work on this one here, you may want to clip just that out and then bring that in. And then what you're going to do is you're going to get the full texture resolution. But I'm okay. I think I can read this, so I'm just going to roll with the full sheet.
I think you can just stop at, I think I can read.
I can read.
I've seen you read before, and you do a great job. So I think you're all set.
Okay, thanks. I'm going to move my mic because now I moved it up, so I can't see my screen. So here is just kind of the part where it's like, I'm just kind of tracing, because what I need to do is just get these boundaries so that I can get something in 3D. Now, here's the problem, is that I can see that these steps repeat. And let me pull back 1 second. Why did I choose this one? This one's kind of interesting because what it's doing is it's showing 4 different things. It's showing what's happening below grade. It's got a structural footing. It's got drainage. It's got compact subgrade, so you've got crushed aggregate, and then obviously whatever the regular native soil is going to be. It's got stone paving, stone steppers, handrail, and then beyond that is a planter, which is a raised planter, which sort of acts as a cheek wall and or seat wall, depending on how you want to view that. So there's actually kind of a lot of things going on in this particular detail, whereas if I went over here and I started with something like, oh, let's just do some flagstone steps, we could do that. That would be pretty quick. But at the same time, I'm looking for something more complex, because I think the more things that are going on, the more interesting it would be to see this from different angles and to be able to control that depth and a lot of the sort of aesthetic decisions that we're going to make. Does that work?
Nice. I like the ambition. You don't have to start out small and get your motor up to speed. You can just jump right in.
Yeah.
Jump in the deep end,
we're
right?
going to jump right in. So that said, I'm going to have to make some adjustments, but I'm just going to just trace this for right now, just so that I can do the concrete footing first, and then just call that done. You can see I kind of drew these in 2 different pieces. And this is pretty easy. Now, I just group this first, and we got to kind of decide. We can start pulling and pushing and pulling things. Or we can wait until everything's drawn and then pull stuff out. It doesn't really matter. The nice thing is that we do have this PDF to trace from. If you don't have a PDF that you're going to go from 2D to 3D, and you're just literally taking a piece of the SketchUp model and then starting and then making this into a construction detail, it's a little bit different. It's probably be a little bit different process, because you're not trying to match the 2D exactly like I'm trying to do. So,
and one thing is that you said this is a PDF, but it's raster.
It's a raster PDF, yeah.
And if you import PDFs on Mac, is there any can you import vector PDFs, or does it convert it to raster? Or somebody was asking about if you imported a vector with all this text and stuff that you have on here, it probably would be too much detail that wouldn't perform very well.
Yeah, you can't go straight from PDF to import it as vector. You'd have to make sure you imported it as DWG. So like if you can turn a PDF if it's vector to a DWG and then import the actual geometry. But in this case, excuse me, it doesn't. I don't want that geometry, like that CAD hatch pattern. I'm not going to use that. I'm going to apply my own patterns over the top of it. So it's a good question. I don't see. I mean, maybe in that, like, I wouldn't need to retrace these. I might actually be able to grab the line work of like the steps and of like the concrete footings from CAD. But in this case, it's kind of, it's almost more work to clean up a CAD drawing than it would be just to draw over the top. So yes.
So you could do it if you wanted to, but it probably is not worth the hassle versus just, yeah.
I would say it's probably not worth it to bring it in as a, DWG, but it's possible.
Right.
Yeah. But I think the bigger question is that you can't go straight from PDF to vector. If you bring a PDF in, it'll rasterize it. So.
Right. You'd have to convert it in some other program.
Yeah.
Okay. Good to know.
1.5 feet. So as I'm drawing this though, as we're kind of talking about this, I am tracing this, but I'm also looking at, this is something that came up with Aaron too. You know, we have to kind of decide whether or not we want to give it real world dimensions or whether we want to just trace it. And then when we go to put dimensions on it later, we can always change the number to whatever we want. For example, like this stair thickness, it may read as 3 inches in the model, but we could always call it out as 2 inches, right? Because no one's actually going to dimension off of these. So, but as I trace things just out of habit, I do tend to want to give it, whoa, see what I did there? I do want to try to give it some real world dimensions just because it's just good habit. So I would go something like this would be 1 foot 4 inches, comma 3 inches. And that might not be exactly what's in the file, the file that I'm drawing off of, but I'm okay with that. And then this would be like the stone. Yeah, so in order to do this, I'm going to make this a component. By the way, I have my X-ray mode on, so for those of you that weren't sure what I was doing, I just dived right in. I didn't stop to explain. Yeah, let's just do that. There we go.
Yeah, all good. You don't need to explain everything.
No, I do need to explain everything, Matt. Is this the first time you've worked with me?
No, I appreciate, and I'm sure everybody, especially on campus, appreciates your comprehensive approach to teaching. That's
Matt telling me just to just be quiet and just go with it.
No, not at all. I mean, I think at the beginning of the stream you were mentioning like, well, Aaron, did last week did what he knew with details, and you're going to do what you're going to do, and I'm like, well, I know nothing. I have no idea. I look at this and I'm like, oh, that looks kind of cool, but I don't know what anything actually is. So maybe you do need to be comprehensive just for the lay people in the audience, such as maybe myself.
Well, the cool thing about our audience is that we've got some pretty smart people in the audience. I remember that even from last time, whereas when we asked questions or when we misspoke, it was like they were happy to chime in and be like, it's actually referred to as. It's like, thanks, guys. Thanks, guys and gals.
Yeah. So I can tell that these are stairs.
These are stairs. So, okay. So this is what you would call a landing. There's a top landing and a bottom landing, right? And then there's the stairs. This is what's called a tread, the horizontal usually. And then again, someone correct me if I'm wrong. This is how I think of it. And then this would be what we call the riser. So which would be the rise over run. That's how we calculate things like this. So you want to kind of double check. That's 5 3/8 inch. That's a weird number, but it says 6 inches. So I might want to come in here actually and change this and just draw a little reference line and just call this 6, and then take this and pull this. And because it's a component, it's going to do this to all of them. So I'm sitting here, I started working, and I was just kind of using what was in the model or what was in the reference drawing. And now you can see that I'm sort of paying for that, because I go back later and check it. And I'd be like, no, that's not right. So 6 inches is actually, is pretty typical. So for a rise, now there's like this thing called a Michelangelo step. A Michelangelo step is like, I think it's 4 by 15, but a normal stair tread is going to be a 6 by 12. So that's just easy to remember. So 6 high by 12 long. So
very good.
Yeah. So now I just made the depth of this thing arbitrary, but I might come in here and I might, you know, as I might change this and make this longer. But right now I just want to get something in 3D, and then we can sort of play with depths and stuff. And that's good. Look at that, 6 inches puts me right where I need to be. And then, you know, we talked about this last time too. If for those that didn't see that stream, that's okay, because again, this is a little bit different. But something we talked about is components. Like, when do you make a component, or when do you make it a group? And I think that's just, I think that's going to be tough, because you can, if you make it a component and you copy it a bunch of times and then you find that you need it unique, then all of a sudden it's going to be a lot of work. But then if you have something like this stair and you don't make it a component, and then you change it and you want to like create a bevel on the edge of the nose, then you'd kind of be hosed. You're nosed. You'd be hosed. You'd be out of luck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good. Couple of things from the chat. One was talking about John Brock's PDF importer extension for PC, and that it just brings in everything. I think there is also a way to crop, so you only import part of the page, so you don't have to import all the title block and extra stuff you don't need, especially for a page like this where there's a lot of details and a lot of extra text and stuff. That would be good to, you know, just crop to only import the pertinent information. And
Smart.
Also asked if there's a link to these details that they can follow along with, or I know you mentioned maybe getting these from your friend. So is it, I don't know if you have permission to
find out, because he may not be able to share the actual details, only because they come from a place called the Landscape Library. So you have to purchase them. So it's almost like it's kind of one person creates it, he buys it, he modifies it, so uses them, modifies them to fit his project, and then I now take it from 2D into 3D. So it's this really complicated process, and it shouldn't be, but
yeah, so probably against the terms.
Yeah, it may be. I'll find out. I mean, if I can, what I'll do is I'll post it, because we do share things after the stream is done in the what would it be, in the forum post. We have like a forum page where we announce this stuff, and that would be,
and that link is in the description too, to the forum thread.
Exactly. So you just keep an eye out on that, and if I can do something, I will. So,
and then we have another question too that you don't have to address right now, but next time it comes up. They say, I'm a complete beginner. How do you give certain lengths for segments or figures? Like, how do you type in exact dimensions?
Exact dimensions? Okay, well, hang on. Did someone in the chat, did they already get me on this one? So save.
Not yet. Save. Eric's ahead of everybody.
I beat you 25 minutes in. So specific dimensions are going to be, it depends. A lot of times I'm just kind of snapping. I'm just kind of using something that's already drawn as a reference. But if you need something really specific, you just enter it in. So you don't actually type into this thing called the measurements box right here. So if you're brand new to SketchUp, you just start drawing a line. For example, if I want this to come over and I look at that and I say I want this overhang on this ledge to be 3 inches, I just type 3 for inches and enter, and then there it is. And if you're using a decimal system, you can obviously type that in as a decimal of a higher number, like feet or meters. And then I want this to go up 3 again, 3, enter, and then there it is. And then from there I can use that as my starting point. This time I'm going to do the same thing as a square, 3, 3, and that's, I'm telling it to go 3 over and 3 up. So that way I don't have to like draw so many times if I don't want to.
Yes. And for a total beginner, to start that operation, so you select the tool, you click once and release the mouse button to start, and then that's where you just type in air. You don't like Eric said, you don't click in anywhere. You just click once to start the operation in the direction that you want the line to go, for instance, then type the dimension, then hit enter, and then it'll go to that exact dimension.
And hang on. Okay. So what I'm doing here while you were talking, thanks Matt for clarifying, as always. What I was doing while Matt was sort of giving you that explanation was as I model, I'd like to be able to turn the my detail reference. If I have a reference, it could be a CAD reference, it could be topography, a site plan, it could be just anything that you need to reference these details. And then I have one that I'm just calling view, in which case I turn that reference off. And it just kind of gives me an idea of pretty quickly, like something like this might be hard for me to see sometimes, but then I could just go back and forth between, oh, okay, cool. Now this is where I left off, and I'm going to move on to there and get that going. So that's what I was doing. I just like to kind of switch back and forth and see how I'm doing. How is it coming?
Yeah, very good. Always good to double check on your progress apart from all the extra noise in the model. There was a question from LinkedIn. I can't respond in the comments to LinkedIn, but from Shreya asking about key plugins one should explore for a better workflow. That would depend on what you're looking to do with SketchUp. I would probably just suggest searching for whether you're doing interior design, interior design SketchUp extensions or architecture or whatever you're looking to do. It's kind of hard without knowing exactly what you're looking to accomplish, which extensions would be best for your workflow.
Yeah, good point. It's extensions are really cool, and I'll probably use a few, and I'll make sure to call them out. So if there's something specific to what I'm doing, I'll mention that, because the cool thing about extensions, which is also the challenging thing about extensions, is that there's a lot of them to choose from, and it's a little bit like trial and error. So unless you watch someone use one, you watched a video where they referenced it, or you just played with it yourself and said, let me test this, it's going to be difficult to sort of say, oh, this one does exactly what you want and it'll do it every time. Just because there's, you have those options, a lot of options out there. I don't know. I want to pull this out further, and I'll show you why in just a minute. I had to redo that as you're asking that question, or as you were trying to answer that question, because I kind of messed up my wall. When I drew this thing, I intersected it with the stairs, but then when I extruded it, it means that I was pulling it as if it was extending the staircase. So I had to redo that. And what I wanted to do was see, let me see. This is where, folks, this is where, like, when you have an idea in your head and then you think it's going to work, and then you are talking, and then you're like, that didn't work because I was talking.
We should do a silent stream one time just to see how much you could actually get done. We always talk about, explaining things slows you down, but
I would love to do a silent stream. That would be fun. But then again, I don't know if that'd be that interesting, because people would be like, what's he doing? Why did he do that?
That sounds like interest to me. Questions? That's interest. Absolutely.
I did something wrong. I'm just trying to clean this up. Okay, so what I was trying to do is build this planter, and I'm trying to separate out the pieces, and you'll see why I kind of have an idea of what I want to do here, but I don't know if it's going to work. So yeah, how are we doing so far? 30 minutes in, we've got the start of our detail. So this is where, before we get too far, I have to kind of think about it. It helps to really want to know where we're going with this, because in this case, I told you just a minute ago, I could pull this out. Now, this detail in particular, and I'll show you later, is that this is why this makes a good construction detail. You might say, well, why are we doing this as construction detail if it's just a one-off? And it's actually not a one-off. So in this particular project, it was for a house. And this staircase, there's a whole terrace. There's an upper terrace and a lower terrace. And this staircase, there's one really big one, and then there's one little one, and then there's one even smaller one. So there's different ways that you could get down from the upper terrace to lower terrace using these planters as a way to just break up or divide or soften that space. So the point I'm trying to make is that this is a really good detail, because we can show this as one larger staircase, and then we can say see plan for the widths, because the detail is not supposed to dictate the width of the staircase. It's just supposed to dictate how the planter walls and the stair and what's happening underground interact. Right? With me?
Yeah. Yeah, details are not representative of like everything that's going to be built, just what information you need to know in order to build it.
Yeah, and if I wanted to show this two ways, if I wanted to show this came up in the last time about adding section cuts inside of groups. And I thought, well, I was thinking before the stream, and I said, well, let's try this and see if this works. What we could do is if you group all of this stuff, and you can see how I have things going on below grade, which would work, but it only works if I look at just a thin slice of what's happening. But if I want to look at the whole terrace as sort of a bigger idea, just to indicate that, of course, this staircase would not be only 1 foot thick, it would be much, much bigger than that. So what I might do is come in here and go Tools, Section Plane, and then just use my keyboard short arrow keys to orient it. And then what I can do is I can move this. The cool thing is I could then put this stair just in line with what's happening below grade, right?
Yeah.
So if I toggle that section cut off, like if I wanted to see it as an aerial view like this, let's say, for example, I switched my camera to ortho, and I wanted to kind of show how the relationship of, obviously I didn't finish the stair and I didn't finish the planter because the widths will vary, but this is a typical condition. But then when I want to show what's going on below grade, I'm using a keyboard shortcut, Shift S, and then what I can see is I'm now cutting away and I'm almost revealing what's happening below. It's kind of cool.
Very nice. Yeah, that's snappy.
Yeah, I was trying to think of a way of something to do different. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to just copy Aaron as much as I think that would have been fine, because what he produced, if you didn't watch the stream last time, what Aaron produced was really cool. So there's nothing to say that, you can't do exactly that way. But I also wanted to kind of say, okay, well, let's look at some things. Let's look at some other ways to do it that we didn't cover in that stream. And that would be one of those. I'm missing this line here. I think it got softened somehow. I actually want that line. Oh, I don't know if you noticed, Matt. I think we were talking before the stream, but for those that didn't notice, I just, whenever I create a new file, I have my AO turned on in my style by default. So like whenever I start a new drawing, you can see I've already got my AO on. And so for those that maybe didn't notice, yeah, I'm just working with it. Last time we turned it on after maybe midway through. And I was like, yeah, let's just go with that. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, looks cool. All right, so what I want to do is just do the handrail now, and then I want to just put some stuff under the ground, and then I want to start styling it because I want to take it to layout, and then we have to decide, I want to look at how this one little detail, I can get a lot of use out of it. So that if I wanted to make a modification of it, if I wanted to make it look like a construction detail and change the styling, we're going to have some fun. So right now it's pretty simple, but I think I have some ideas. Hope you don't mind. Hope that's cool. I always run everything by Matt. Is that cool, Matt?
That's cool with me. Hey, I say, let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, cool. Got Matt's permission. Got Matt's sign off. Let's do it. So here, this is a bit challenging because, guess what? When you add a section cut like I did here, if you don't update your style to show the section cut, it won't show. So that's why the section cut disappeared when I went back to my scenes. So when I flipped through my scenes here, the section cut disappeared. So if I want that to show, I would need to come in and create a new style, and I would just put section, and then make sure that section cut is turned on. Well, actually, it is on. Excuse me. You have to make sure that it's activated. and that the scene that you want to save it to is updated. So there you go. So that's it. That's where the section cut has not been activated, and then there it is where it is, where it has been activated. Just a little something to think about. So let's do this. Let's bring this handrail. Let's go 6 inches off, and then I'm going to, this is where I've got to think for a second. I already know that I already kind of punched a hole in this footing. You can see this footing below here. I kind of already punched a hole in it, and then so what I want to do is make sure that I'm using, not only am I drawing my handrail to be centered on this hole, but that I'm using the same distance. So I think I put that as a 1 inch radius, which would be a 2-inch hole. So if I'm going to put a cap over that, I need to make sure that that is the same size. So I could do something like this and go 2, 1, because it's 1. I could have put a section cut. Oh, that would have been smart. I could have put a section cut inside. I didn't. All right, so now what I want to do is unhide this. This is where it gets tricky, folks. Paste in place. That way I know that this is centered. And then I'm going to use my, I'm using inferencing on the blue axis. So you can see I was pretty close. I was trying to align this with the edge of that, and then I was pretty close to where I drew that footing. That's okay. I'm going to go with where the footing is, and I'm not going to worry about whether that aligns up perfectly because it just doesn't really matter. And then I want to, so that right there is the, I'm calling this like, what do you call that, folks in the chat? I'm blanking, but it's like when you have something that, it's the cap that goes over the top of it. I'm forgetting the name of it, but it's like when you pour and place something in concrete, you can either embed it or you can put like that little ring cap over the top so it covers that that joint.
Ring cap sounds good to me. Kind of sounds like
that's
ring
not
pop.
right. There's a name for it, and I'm just blanking. Oh. This actually needs to be bigger because this was the size of the hole. Right. So it would need to be bigger than the hole. So let's go another 1/2 inch and then come down.
Philip says plug.
Is it a plug?
Plug.
Maybe. You can go with plug.
You're not buying it?
I'm not. No, because it covers. Yeah, that's all right. I'll
plug
think
cover.
Plug cover. There we go. Let's see here. So we're gonna go up, and if I know it's 3 feet, then I want it. But I know that plug cover is 0.5. Then I want to go 35.5 inches. That's math, folks. So this whole thing, I'm just gonna make it a component. You wanna know why? Because it reappears. It reappears. We have one at the bottom of the stair, and then we have one at the top. So right now I'm just going to copy this here. I'm just eyeballing this, folks. I mean, what I might want to do is come over and actually say, how far away is that? You know, that needs to be 7 7/4, or that needs to be 8 inches. But I think I'm just going to place it there for now. Or what I would do instead is actually figure out where I placed it, where the footing is, because where I drew the footing would actually be. Sometimes it helps to go into perspective mode for this. And then I kind of go over, and where's Tyson when you need him? He's so good at inferencing. I always bring his name up. You like it? You're good at inferencing too, Matt, aren't you? I think you are. I saw your.
Well, it's nice of you to say. I don't know. Tyson definitely taught me how powerful inferencing was when I first started. Tyson was my boss when I first started on the SketchUp team. So, yeah, if he's your first entry into SketchUp, you know, you're starting with inferencing for sure. So
Tyson was my boss when we first started SketchUp.
Wait,
hang on.
Are you me?
That's great. what is going on here? I don't understand. Okay. Focus.
Somebody else said base plate. Is it a base plate?
It doesn't sound right. Sorry I even brought it up. Just forget I said anything. I can't tell from this detail whether this is round, but I'm actually going to go with kind of, I'm looking at this almost as if this is like a little blade, almost just a thin, I called it a 1x2 piece of metal, you know, just kind of sleek and contemporary. Okay. You know what I could do? I could read the notes.
Nah, forget it.
Steel handrail with powder coat finish as necessary to meet building codes. All right. Yeah, that's right. Let the building code, someone else figure that out. Contractor provides shop drawings. Okay. So the contractor gets to figure it out. But I'm going to tell him that I want to go, instead of round, I want to go squared, almost rectangular. What do you think? You like it?
Yeah, I like it a lot. We did have one question from George about why you didn't use the follow me tool for the handrail.
That's a good question. That's actually a great question, and I probably could have. But the reason why is because what I did was I wanted this here. I actually want to delete this and delete this. It's a good because what I thought maybe instead what I would do is place this handrail, the vertical part, inside of the footing, because the footing was already a component. And that way, when I take the bottom of this here, so for example, if I pull this down to show that it actually is being embedded into the concrete, and I'm going to bring that down 1 foot 2 inches, or I could type in 14, just so that I can see that there's a little air gap in there that where the because this is, you know, this is a drawing too. This is diagrammatic. It's not meant to actually be necessarily 100% accurate. That's why I did that. Did that make sense? I mean, follow me may have been the better way to do it. I don't know why.
Yeah, no, that makes sense to me.
Okay.
It's more how it would be put together. So yeah, no, I like it. We did also have a word that I don't know if I can read, but for that little cap thing. It's escutcheon. Escutcheon. That's gotta be way wrong.
I don't know. That doesn't sound right. See, now
my pronunciation doesn't sound right.
No.
There's no way that's possible.
No. All right, never mind. Like I said, never mind. Forget it. Just forget I brought it up. Okay.
Escutcheon. Let's
go back to finishing up some of the things because I'm getting sidetracked. So what I want to do is I'm just going to give this a color for right now because I could give this a material, but I might actually swap these out later. So this represents this kind of crushed aggregate. So if you look at what's here, if I look at the call out, this is concrete footing for handrail, typical. What did I do wrong? I lifted this thing up and it shouldn't be. Sorry. That needs to sit flush.
Yeah, you need to move that escutcheon down.
I need to scooch that down just a little bit. Did I scooch that up too far?
Butting.
No, I did something wrong. Hang on, let's undo it. Undo. There. Okay, that one's good. Okay. I moved something.
Because it's a component.
Yeah, hang on. Look, see, I accidentally shifted this up. I don't know how I did that. I knew something was wrong. But pay attention, everyone, because it's easy to make mistakes when you're not paying attention. How did I do that? All right. So again, same thing. If this is a component group, I can just come in here and I can just go inside that component and I could place this in there if I need that. So that way, like anytime I use, the cool thing about this is that, and I'm just going to give it a little bit of a different color, because if I wanted to use this footing here and just this handrail, did I do that right? There it is. See, if I wanted to use this in another detail, by making this a component, I can copy this, for example, and I can place this into my library, and then like there it is. So this is this idea that even though I'm spending quite a bit of time making this now, if I was to build this sort of standard kit of parts, I could pull from that later and say, okay, well, this is like my handrail or my post footing with its sort of crushed aggregate base. And then I can play with, we can obviously change the dimensions and things like that. So, where were we? I wanted to finish these. I wanted to finish this up here. And then I want to kind of play with some styling stuff. So we can go to layout.
I like it. Request from Tango Foxtrot for tutorial on how to generate 2D layout drawings from a 3D SketchUp model. We'll be getting into that a little bit on this stream, but yeah, I'll add that to the list of suggestions for other learning videos. George also asked what version this is. This is SketchUp for desktop 2024.
We are using the latest and greatest, so that's why you're going to see the ambient occlusion looking sweet. And I think that's really all I'm tapping into right now. I'm using the new graphics engine, so things are moving really quickly. Although for a simple model like this, I don't know that you would see a huge difference, but you never know. I like to get highest performance I can whenever I can. All right. So this is where I want to, there is sort of a clean rock, sort of crushed, it's not crushed aggregate, there's sort of a rock infill which has been called out. So I'm going to give that, if you wanted to, we could kind of play with, we could see what it looks like when we start putting, maybe I'll wait, maybe I'll just leave that alone and then I'll just kind of fill in this last little bit. Ooh, I don't know. I'm getting picky because I don't really need to do this, but if I see like a little air gap, I just feel like closing it there. Yeah. Yeah, good questions. Keep the questions coming because, you know, I'm kind of learning as we go here too. It's been a while, so just like a little quick story is that I used to do construction details, but that was a long time ago. I started in landscape. And then I went to planning because I wanted to like work on like bigger kind of scale projects, and then went from there to urban design, which is more of like a sort of in between scale, in between what you would see as planning and landscape architecture. So a little bit of everything. And now I get to sit here and try and entertain you folks. I did that as 3, right? 3, yep. Okay, I'm just going to do that as 3. So I'm going to fill this all in with crushed rock. So you won't be able to see that I've got my planter wall behind. Because once I close this up, it'll, and I may want to just play, something I saw Aaron do, which is kind of cool, is he just kind of played with depths a little bit. So like, not everything sat at the same level. So if you pulled something out so that it kind of stuck out a little bit, I thought that was kind of cool. I thought that worked. Yeah. And then we've got this little drainage hole here, which I'll just put that in and 0.25 just to give it a thickness. Get rid of that. And then we're going to we're going to fill in around this. We're almost done. What I want to get to is this. I want to get to some styling stuff. I want to style this a little bit. And then I want to get, before we go to layout, you'll see why in just a second. Okay, this is kind of tough because I need to snap it to there. I want to take this one and go intersect faces with model. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to push that out. Nope, I'll just delete it. There. So now we check our view. Yeah, that looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. Problem is that I kind of want, I don't know. I kind of showed this tucked back a little bit, but now I'm wondering if I need to pull it forward. because this, or whether it's okay to kind of show that as if it's sitting back a little bit. I think I'll just leave it. Maybe this whole thing, maybe I just take this whole thing and I just pull it just back a little bit so that there we go. So it sort of like almost like peels away. Should we go with that, Matt?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. I like the depths, and Ivan agrees. Depths are why 3D details are more clear than old school 2D. Yeah, I have to say I agree.
Yeah. So what I want to do is I want to let's look at adding some textures now, and then I want to. Well, let me do one more. Let me do one last one because otherwise it's gonna bug me. So there's this little like hatch pattern here. That's just kind of like meant to mean that that's just soil. That's backfill. So we kind of show that, we kind of vignette that. We kind of put it around the sort of more built elements so that you can see that this is just kind of sitting in, whatever it's, I don't want to say native soil because maybe it's not native, but you get the idea. So I'm going to use something a little different than Aaron did because that's why we're doing this here, is I want to use the freehand tool and I want to see if I can actually have a tablet screen. So bear with me. I'm going to try this, see if this works.
Look at you over here.
Whoa, look at that curve. Nice curve. Yeah.
That's a steady hand.
Yeah, that's a steady hand. That is a surgeon's hand. Here we go. We're going to, did you see, what was the one, Doctor Strange, before he got in his car crash, his car wreck?
Sure. No.
You didn't see okay.
I mean, I think I saw the second Doctor Strange.
Oh wait, where did it go? Where'd my line go? It showed green, but then it disappeared. I did F for freehand. There it is. Okay, so I'm gonna do that again. So Doctor Strange it's about this like really arrogant surgeon, and then he gets in a car crash, and of course his hands get like all mangled in the crash. So then that's why he's like, oh, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do with my life?
And he's like, I'll just become a superhero. Why not?
Yep, and that's kind of from there. From there, it kind of goes into typical superhero origin stories. Sorry, I'm trying not to zoom too much, but sometimes when I'm trying to just trace this so we can fill this in. I have to remember to be a little bit smoother. I don't have one of those fancy Space Mouse thingies.
Yeah, me neither. In the time I have used one, it doesn't look like I'm using one. Like I'm flying around even worse than, with a mouse, just because I don't. Aaron's probably put in, 10,000. It's put in his 10,000 hours to become an expert at that. But yeah, it does take a little bit to get it feeling more natural.
All right. So this, yes. Yeah, I actually have one of the little mini ones, so it's really only for orbiting. But I find if you don't have all the hotkeys and all that stuff, then it's a little bit harder. It's a little bit harder to use for SketchUp because you just need that left hand for shortcuts and stuff.
Sure, more back and forth.
Excuses. Okay, so let's do this. Let's put some textures on this thing and some plants in, and then I want to show you a little. Actually, I don't know. My trick problem is I think it's a Mac only trick, so I don't really want to upset our PC people because I've already showed off. Often people ask how you get these cool, colorful crayons, and that's actually comes from the Mac OS operating system, and so I have to always apologize and say, PC, you still have your color wheel, so
the crayons alone should be enough to get a Mac.
Yeah,
at least as a separate, as like your B computer, just in case you want those crayons. Are they crayons or are they colored pencils?
That's a good question. I think they're called crayons, but they
they are called crayons.
Oh no, they're called pencils. You're right, they're pencils. I call them crayons.
They kind of do look like crayons, though.
I call them crayons. So, want to know why? It's because we have actually a color palette that's called crayons, so it's just Freudian slip. So what I want to do is go into, where are they? I don't know. I'm using the SketchUp, the default SketchUp materials here, but I would actually probably say that, there's a few that are good, but, if you really wanted to, you could import your own materials. And yeah, we're going to go with it though. We're going to run with it. We're going to use them. So I want this kind of crushed, I want sort of just this sort of rock. What's cool though is, and then this one I probably want to scale. Probably want to, oh, what happened here? Okay, this one I probably want to just scale back a little bit. Just maybe make that in line with there. Just kind of set that in line. Yeah, let's call it. Probably fill that whole thing with rock. All right, so this would be sort of native soil. So I don't know what I would find here. So if I'm gonna go to landscaping and just look for something that looks kind of like soil. But I also wanted to show you, if you don't find what you're looking for, or even if you find it, like that's just ground cover, but it kind of looks like soil. But even then, if it's like too bold, you can always come into colors and model, double click it, and then you can just maybe adjust it slightly. So just get it sort of more in line with, you can just kind of lighten it, so it's not, I gotta be careful because then I sort of screwed it up.
If you make that panel bigger, do you have more fine control? Or yeah, I guess you can just get it to here and then you can just type in what you want.
Yeah, you could do that. What I wanted to do was just I just kind of wanted to fade it out. Do you know what I mean? I was just trying to like make it so that it's not so obvious, because that's not the most important part of this detail.
Right.
And then I need something that looks like sandstone. So I'm going to cheat. So real quick, I'm calling myself out on it before I do it. But if you do happen to, you've seen me in the past use, I render stuff, and just because using V-Ray, and just because even if you don't go to render, you can also, oops, I didn't mean to open transmuter, just V-Ray. You can also go in and grab some really cool textures from Cosmos. Cosmos is where you get the material. So if I import something like stone, and if I go over here to something like ground, it's cool because you just type what you want and then click import, and then you come over here to something like, I don't know, maybe that's all I need because I think everything else has one. Maybe I look at cobble. Is there maybe, no, not cobble, pebble for the crushed aggregate. I don't know if that's the one. Let's go with stone. Is there something that looks like little tiny stones? Like little, oh yeah, that one. Perfect. Rock, tiles, rough. So from there, you can basically come in here and say, it's a really easy, because if you just kind of do it diagrammatically, like I'm doing it here, like I've done it, and if you do use V-Ray, if you are a V-Ray user, you can just come in and just grab something like stone beige, use it as a replacement, find that stone material that I've been using, which is just tan, called material 1, and then replace in scene. And you can see how easy it is. The nice thing about that is it replaces the material everywhere. So you don't have to go into subgroups, you don't have to copy paste, you don't have to do anything. It just wipes it, replaces everything. Fun little trick.
Very nice.
And then if you do,
and then it looks nice in SketchUp, and then if you do render in V-Ray, like
exactly.
super nice. It's got all the
V-Ray,
the settings and everything to make it nice and fancy.
So grass, same thing. I'm only replacing one. So instead of saying that, I could just say apply to selection. So, and then there's my grass. And then I did want these sort of little cobbly looking things. So what I'm gonna do is make sure that I've got this material that's editable in V-Ray, material number 5. And then I go to rock, tile, rough, use as a replacement, material 5, replace in scene. And that scale is a little off for me. So what I'm going to do is just come over here into materials in my model. And you just come in here and just come in something like maybe 2 feet instead of 6. And I think that looks pretty good. What do you think, Matt? Oops.
Yeah.
Whoa, I messed it
Snazzy.
up. Hang on.
Oh no.
Before I exited out of there, it reset the, yeah. That's cool. So even if you've got a V-Ray material like this, you can still go in and tweak it edit it in SketchUp to make it look exactly like you want. Now I'm going to save this. I want to do one more thing here, and I want to go into, I've been saying one more thing. I've said it like 6 times, so I'm not going to say one more thing. I'm going to do, the next thing I'm going to do is open up 3D Warehouse, because what I do want to do is look for, I want to do a couple things. You can see I maybe practiced right before.
We've been here before.
I might have tried this before. Okay. Shh. So I'm going to grab, I'm looking for 2 things. I want a 2D plant, but I want it in plan view and I want it in elevation view. So for those that have seen my live streams, you guys know that I like to, like whenever I work with plant material, I like to have a one that I can view in plan view. So it's almost more diagrammatic or schematic looking. And then I like to have one that's a little bit more realistic. So I'm going to, I don't know, Matt, do you have any favorites? Let's get some grasses. Here, maybe before you choose that, let's grab something that looks like, let's type in 2D grass. I'm just thinking like ornamental grass, something like kind of flowy and soft. And hey, look at that. Look who made this one. I like these people. These people are cool. So let's get their grass.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. We did have some people in the chat reminding you to save as well.
Thank you. Save. I do try to reflexively save, but I know that doesn't always work as planned. So I'm going to edit this color a little bit. We're going to lighten that grass up. Maybe take a little bit of that sort of fake green color out of it. Just do something a little milder. And then maybe copy that one. And then let's see here, depending on how I want this to, depending on the angle I want this to display, I may change that a little bit, but can also just sort of tweak it just a little bit, scale these ones down, maybe even come over here and mirror one of them. So again, that they don't look exactly the same, even though they are. A little bit of variety, not a lot. All right, so Matt, which one do you think we should use here for our symbols? Which one looks a little grassy to you? I don't know how you're going to tell me, but you just tell me where to point.
8.
8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This one?
I don't know. What do you think? That's my choice. No, it's too spiky.
I think it's too spiky for. Think about a construction detail. We almost want to abstract it a little bit more. So we almost want to simplify it a little bit more. So we want it to be grass, but not like literal grass.
Ah, okay. How about one of the tadpoles?
One of these? Those are lily pond. I think they're lily ponds. Either they're horse hoops.
Oh, tadpoles are. Oh gosh,
yeah,
you caught me. I haven't been reading my frog books.
Those
lately.
Those are what we call Pac-Man symbols.
Ah, okay, yeah.
How about we go with either this one here on the right or this one here? I'm gonna let you.
Hey, that's a spiky one too. Give me a break.
It's less spiky.
Yeah, I think the first one that you said.
This one? Okay, yeah. Cool. Let's do it. Thanks. I give poor Matt, I give him like the illusion of choice. Okay, pick anyone you want between these two. He's like,
so many things are in this world, you know?
I know. It is true. But you know what? Sometimes having less choice is actually better, because then otherwise you just get sort of paralyzed and you're, I don't know. Don't make me choose. My daughter, she's like the worst. She's so indecisive. She's like, I'm like, what do you want for dinner? You know, you want mac and cheese? Or you want like grilled cheese? You know, it's basically cheese or cheese. What do you want? And I don't know. Mac and cheese sounds really good, but you know, I do like grilled cheeses. Oh, I don't know. Like, come on, just pick
That's when you just got to double up.
Okay, fine. We'll do both.
Double cheese.
I'm going to grab the same color. So I'm going to come over here. Speaking of extensions, shout out. So one that I like, it's TomTom's Material Tools. So Materials Tools is really quick because it has this one called Remove Material from Selection. And so if you had a component with like 10 materials, you can just wipe it. So for me, I like to often bring something in from 3D Warehouse and I'll wipe it clean. So remove that from the selection. And then what I'll do is grab that sort of same material that I'm already using and I'll just paste that back in. So I have it both in elevation and in plan. Now here's the thing,
Does
Matt.
that material, just real quick on the material remover, does that work on nested groups and components too?
Yeah, like if I really wanted to, and I'm probably going to regret this, but let's grab both this and that and go extensions, materials tools, remove from selection. And also, even though I've only selected one component, because I'm removing it from the component, I think it removes it from all components. So if I say remove from selection, see what it did? It removed it from all the components that even though I only selected one, and the wall. And so, and then of course, if you had it deeply nested, it would take the nesting done as well. Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's cool. That's where I've run into a lot of clicking in, right? And then you're trying to paint all of the faces. And yeah, so that's pretty cool. Good tip.
Yep. So, and then you'll notice that I'm painting on the outside of components, which some people say don't do that. Some people say you should paint the faces, and I just say, you know what? You do you. I'll do me. Okay. Window, model info, purge unused, get all the materials that came in from those symbols because I got my grass symbol. And now I'm going to have to open up tags for the first time. And this is actually perfect because now I wanted to go to tags for a different reason. But one thing I want to do is if you look at this in plan view, watch, I'm using a shortcut, Command 1. Problem is with embedding multiple components like this is that you can see both the 2D and the 3D. So what I want to do is I want to come in here and just go with S. I'm going to go with plant, and I'm going to call this symbol. You can call it whatever you want. Names are not important. You do you. And then I'm going to do this FM, and that stands for face me. So one of them is a sort of a diagrammatic symbol or a CAD symbol. And then the other one would be this one here would be what's called face me. So there we go. So the cool thing about that now is if I go to plan view, what I would do is I would turn this face me one off. And then there you go. And Matt, I didn't know if you knew this, but I just learned this today playing around. If you select this material, and if I wanted to make this plant symbol transparent or opaque, watch what happens. Did you see what happened? Did you see it? Do I need to do it again?
You sampled it and then double clicked on it in the materials panel and then changed the opacity.
Watch. So now it's 100%, no opacity. Watch this. Did you see it?
Oh, the ambient occlusion
Yep.
Snapped off.
Yep. Yeah. I didn't know ambient occlusion doesn't like the opacity. So that's kind of just something where you have to decide. In this case, do you want to see the ground come through, or do you think it's better that you get that shadow?
Yeah, I guess it makes sense if you had windows. You don't want them casting ambient shadows.
Probably not. Or if you want it, yeah, okay.
Or they wouldn't cast ambient shadows in real life, so.
And I'm going to put a small little circle to indicate the center of the plant. I'm going to leave the AO on for right now. Kind of looks cool. It looks like saw blades, or it looks like cogs, where it's like a machine is turning. Because I put them inside of a face me component. So the face me component is turning. If you didn't want to do that, what you would do is you'd make a new component container. So you'd have the face me, and so the symbol, the 2D plan view would stay, and then the face me would rotate, but then the container on the outside wouldn't. That would be a static. That would stay still. So if that bothers you, if the little rotating symbol bugs you for some reason, you just have to reset that up differently.
That makes me wonder, could you put a cog in a face me component, and then when you orbit, they would turn? Like if you had three, flipped the middle one, and then, anyways, that's a good. That's just me saying something, but
that's a good question. I like that you're asking these kinds of questions because these are deep. These are deep questions. If you're not asking them, who is? Okay, who might? So it's then here. So if I switch that around, you can see now I have that like this. So if I wanted to view this, shift to parallel projection and to elevation view. There we go. Speaking of elevation view, before we go to layout, I should probably come over here and turn my styles. I don't have to do this because I could override this in layout, but what I want to do is probably turn the sky off. And then there you go. So that's our detail. This is what it would look like if we just kind of left it as a standard detail, a standard 2D detail. But of course, we went through all this trouble, so we're going to want to show it maybe a couple different ways.
Nice. There was a comment a little bit ago, I don't want it to get lost here, from Nick that says for fill patterns, he says, I'll often add below grade native soil as a shape and layout with earth hatch fill.
Yes. If you, yeah, so that's a good point, because what I wanted to do for this one was come over here and turn the edges off. This is another extension that I like. It's by Fredo. It's called Hide All Edges. So really quickly, instead of having to select all these edges, I just use an extension and it's called Hide All Edges. And then you can see here, it's kind of cool because what it does is it just, it'll just soften that up without having to do a lot of work. And so, and that's a good point, is that if you didn't need this extra bit, you could show this as a hatch pattern in layout. So speaking of layout, because I want to get there, and this is something that is a little bit interesting. I did a video on this, but then I got some pushback because I think it's a Mac only feature. So I kind of want to show it, but then I also don't want to, like I said, I just a few minutes ago, I didn't want to alienate anyone. The point that
if the crayons weren't enough, maybe this is your entry point.
I think it's cool. Here's the thing. Here's the thing is that at some point right now we're kind of using legacy stuff, but a lot of things SketchUp is working on behind the scenes is getting more parity between the UX UI. So I think you can even see that starting with the change of the tool icons. So I hope that this is something that will eventually come. So that's why I'm not too worried about it. So what I want to do is just kind of stone. I'm going to create a few different tags and I'm tagging them by material. So I'm going to do stone, concrete. I'm going to do aggregate, and then I want to do something like what other materials are there? Soil. I'm going to say rocks, and the last one I'm going to say soil, and I probably need a ground cover or PA, SGC. So don't worry about the names, they're not important, they're just so I know what's what. So if you come over here, you'll notice I'm in color by tag mode. So I turned my color by tag mode on so you can see that my plants turned a weird color. But in this case, what I want actually is the plants to be white. So here, what I want to do is look at putting some diagrammatic materials on top of my model before I go to layout. So for example, if I looked at the concrete and then I go to colors, there's this one cool one, I think Aaron showed this last time, called patterns. So I can come down here and I could find one that looks like a pattern. Now, this is the thing that I think is cool, that I didn't know if PC people could do this. So correct me if I'm wrong, and if I am, if you can't, then I apologize. But see how I dragged a pattern into the color by tag slot. So if I click OK, and then I grab something like this and I assign this to the concrete tag, then all of a sudden I'm overriding, it becomes a material override. So you can see even here I have it as a realistic texture, but then when I turn color by tag on, it becomes a CAD hatch texture, right?
Yep. And yeah, I think you're right. That's only on Mac.
Yeah.
We also had a note from Keggy on the. It looks like your stone tag didn't. The title didn't take on it.
Okay, I must have X'd out of it quicker, which is good because I want to do stone next. So the stone is sort of like is like the planter wall itself. So if I wanted to do something like this one here, so I'll put this on stone. You'll see it's going to change colors for just a second. It's not the color that I want. So then I would find something. Again, you don't have to do this. I just thought this was, I think it was almost like, I don't want to call it a bug because it's not, but it's kind of just a cool thing. That texture is a little small, but I'm just going to run with it for right now. And then I want to do aggregate. So I click on aggregate. I'm going to take this one, which is inside of here, put that onto aggregate, put this one onto concrete. And as soon as I change it, so basically just by changing tags here, I can change materials. So it's kind of cool because if you did have a file that was pre-set up, aggregate, aggregate, aggregate. If you had a file that was like almost like a template file that had all this stuff in it, then it would be kind of cool, because then all you have to do is just literally just assign a tag to something. So let's put that one there.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. And actually, Guillermo says that according to Matt Donnelly, it can also be done on Windows. So learn something new. I didn't know.
Yeah, because I remember someone saying you can't, and I was like, sorry, I didn't have my PC in front of me, so I never tested it. But it would be weird that you wouldn't be able to, because I would feel bad demoing something that you couldn't do yourself. Okay, so let me do this last one. This is kind of like a soil texture. You also can kind of mix and match too. Like, you don't have to do the patterns. Like, if you wanted to go back and do something that looked like this here, you could come over here for this, and this. I'm putting under just clean rock, not aggregate. It's just a little bit different material. And then I would grab the color and I would change that to, oh, the problem is though, is that the only problem with this is you can't edit these materials. So
if they're the wrong scale or something,
yeah, exactly. This is kind of a fast and loose way to do it. So you'd want to make sure, if you're going to do this, you almost want to make sure you have your own patterns that are already pre-edited and pre-scaled, because I'm bringing them from the library, and you can't edit them from the library. Otherwise, I'd have to go in and I'd have to make a unique texture. But if it's seamless texture, then that's a problem. So anyway, I'm just going to stop here. I want to finish this last one off.
Yeah, good call. And a note from Nick here too is that a thing to notice is that the SketchUp hatch patterns can only be raster rendered, while the layout hatch patterns are vector.
That's true. That's true. So these are, if you zoom in really close, like I wouldn't do this, but if you did zoom in really close, because it's a raster image, it's a JPEG or a PNG, you're going to get that little bit of that pixelation. But from a distance, you probably won't be able to tell. Let me do this last one. This last one is going to be called, I'm just calling this native soil, and I want to see what happens when I put, I think I have one that's kind of a soil. Let me see, what would be a soil? This one. This is kind of a soil symbol. This is kind of what we use in the CAD days. Probably recognize that, CAD people. And then I do want to do one for GC. So this is GC, stands for ground cover. It's just it's basically what you would see if you were looking down in plan view. And I don't know, like I would probably just use something that like looks like a grass, but perhaps, I don't know if that works or not. Let's just go with it. Save. Hey, Matt, can we go to layout now? Are we ready?
Oh, finally. All the SketchUp stuff was killing me, but I've been waiting for this time.
You took 45 minutes just to do this wimpy little thing here, just to show me one little staircase. So come on, man, stop talking. So yeah, let me know if there's any questions about anything we covered, because we're moving right along like the Muppets, if anyone's seen the Muppet movie.
I don't know it, but we're all caught up, so ready to go.
So what I want to do is I do want to set up a scene, and I want to make sure that it is called plan view. And the reason why is because I do have, actually I don't need to do this. I could do it, I could do it here, or I could do it in layout. Now, the more control you want, for the most part, layout gives you all the control that you have. But if you need things like turning a section cut on and off, that's the one thing layout can't do. So if you have a style and it's globally applying a section or globally not applying a section, you want to make sure that you have that either activated or deactivated here in SketchUp before you get to layout. That's the only thing I want to call out. Everything else, as far as tags and styles, that can be done afterwards. So if I am going to go through and do this, I'm going to switch my plant symbols, and I'm going to update this, and I'm going to double check my scenes. I'm going to make sure that my camera location is saved for my plan view. So you'll notice that the other ones don't have camera location. This was my section cut, which I want to make sure that I turn my plant symbol off. And then this was my working scene, which just has all of my notes and things. So that's really just meant for as we kind of build this up. I think that's all I need. Everything else I think I can do in layout. This is the one where I want to make sure, like I just said, double check if you don't have it. I'm just going to make another one, and I'm just going to call this I just want to make sure I have one that does not have a section cut, so that when I'm in layout later, I can choose section cut, no section cut. Everything else I'm cool. Oh, the other thing I want to do is probably do one that has, I probably want to do one, this is color by tag. So go back into styles. I'm going to create one that's called CBT no section. And then I'm going to duplicate that, and I'm going to turn on my section, and I'm going to call that CBT section. And I don't need to apply them. You don't need to apply them to a scene. The only problem is you want to be careful not to purge, because if you've got a bunch of styles here and you don't have them applied to scenes, and then if you purge, it's unused, it's going to get rid of them. So in this case, what I'm going to do is just not, no section, section. No section, section. I've got a duplicate, so I'm going to delete that one. See? That's it. I think we're good. Now we're going to go to layout. File, save. Always save it first before, because it's going to make you send to layout. It's going to ask me what template do I want to use. I'm going to go to my templates, and I'm going to click my concept set, even though that may not be the best one, but it has some stuff in there that may be useful. So let's go with that. Oh, it's doing that thing again. Let's see. Yeah, it's sometimes I just have to forget why it does this. I'm going to try that.
Is Colin in the chat?
Cancel. No, it's a display thing. There's nothing wrong with the file or anything like that. For some reason, I've seen that. I brought it. I've already mentioned it. Sometimes it does that. Don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. So file, page setup. Sorry, not page setup. Document setup. And I want to turn my margins off. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go back to my first page here. And you can see I've already got a page name because I've got it as auto text. So I would just change this page name here to something like landscape details. Or if I was only going to put one detail per page, I may make this call this stair detail, stair and planter detail. And then you can see here I've got some auto text. So it's got today's date, it's got the number of pages. It's missing a page, but that's because if you go over here to document setup, you just have to tell what page you want to start. So it says start, I want to start my numbering at landscape details. This will be the first page of my set. And then we're good to go. I have some guides in here that I created because I'm used to working in InDesign. So I created some guides. For those that want to know how to do that, I have another video. It's a live stream. I think it's called Working Smart in Layout or something like that. It's about setting up templates and automating things. So check that out if you're interested. I may or may not use these guides. That's why I just turn them off when I'm not using them. Let's do this. So here I need to set this. I want to do an isometric view. And I want to style override to show the section cut. I don't know. I don't know if we need the no, maybe I want to do one. Maybe I want to turn off all the stuff underneath. The aggregate, the concrete footing, the rocks, the stone, not the stone wall, and the soil. All right, so this is kind of what it looks like if I was just to, almost like if it was just built. So here's an isometric. We're going to give this a scale. It's already got a scale on it, 1/3/8 inch, which actually looks pretty good. So let's just kind of set that aside. We can see what that looks like too in black and white if I wanted to go black and white, or we could see what that looks like in color. I'm going to leave that in color for right now. What's kind of cool is that if you go in and label stuff, I didn't go in and label things, but if we did want to go spend a little bit more time in SketchUp, I could, this component definition, it's trying to call the name for that. Right now it's component number 3. I did not really put a ton of effort into organizing my model, but if I wanted to, I could come over here and call this something like Handrail. steel handrail. Save. And let's see if that works. Let's see what that does. Update SketchUp model reference. And I'm going to redo that label again. Let's see. Group name. Steel handrail. Yes. So that's kind of cool. So that's just, you know, if I did want to, you know, spend a little bit more time organizing things, I could, it'll save me time later, but I'm okay. Right now I'll just leave that there. Let's copy this. I can either use the move plus the modifier to make a copy of the viewport, or I can copy and paste. And let's go over into plan view. It says scene plan, so I want to reset everything. I want to reset it because I want to look at it in plan view. Oh, something didn't work. I think I forgot to tell the camera to save the camera. Yeah, right. I think I forgot to tell it to make sure to preserve camera location. That's okay, because I can just do top view, which is the same. So top view, I'm going to override it. I'm going to use my sort of CAD sort of diagrammatic view. And then I want to, in this case, switch my plant symbol. And because this wall continues on, and because these stairs will continue, they'll stop and start at different intervals. It's probably a good idea to cover up. In my model, I stopped drawing there, but in this case, if I just use my viewport to cover that up, then I can show as much or as little of the stair as possible. But the problem is then, let's save this to landscape details. Actually, I'm going to call this lakeside house, because this is, I'm assuming this is part of a larger set where this is only the details page of a much larger set. So we'll call this. So now, because when you save the file, it should update the name here under file name, and you can see just by saving it, it has updated the name.
Nice.
Yeah, I like the auto text. See, that was all built into the template. So all this stuff that I'm doing is kind of cool. I didn't have to actually spend any time setting up the template. I do want to open up my scrapbook though, because I do want to see if I can find, I don't remember which one it is in, but it's under these graphics. There's like some cool landscape graphics, site graphics. And one of them is a cut. There it is. It's like a little, yeah, this one. So I just drag and drop. Yeah, yeah, it's a section. It's sort of a cut line to indicate that this is going to continue further, even though I'm not showing it here. So, and then one little trick here, and maybe I'll show you in a second because I think it doesn't matter here. I'm going to hold Option on a Mac. I think it's probably Control on a PC. And I'm going to lift that up. That just indicates that we're cutting. Yeah, we're cutting. So now I'm going to copy that again, and we're going to switch. Now notice I didn't set up any scenes. I'm just going to go standard view from top to front. What's cool about that is that everything is in position. So you can see if it's already all lined up instead of using scenes, because even if you set up a scene and you go top to side, you're probably going to shift the viewport. But if you let layout override it, it's going to hold all those things in position. So it's actually, in this case, one of those examples where you may want to, let layout. I'm going to turn all these things that I turned off for when I was doing that axonometric. And for the person who commented, yeah, you could do a symbol, a hatch pattern that will look a little bit cleaner if you do that as, just to show you what that would be. Like, for example, if I just wanted to use the line tool and then hold it and make, a series of arcs, I'm just holding down to sort of bend it and make these arcs. And I'm not going to do the whole thing. I'm just going to go really quick because I just want to show you a comparison. And then what we have over here is under Window. Nope, not that one. Under Window, I don't always use these because you can come over here and you can look at things like site patterns. That's not it. All pattern, tonal patterns. I don't know if that's it. So let's see here. The problem is I don't know which ones, but let's see here. Let's just see if we can find one. I'm just going to pick one. Let's go with crushed rock and then get rid of that fill pattern. So what somebody was saying earlier, I wanted to show this because what somebody was saying earlier is that you can see when I zoom in, this is actually still, actually these patterns are also raster, aren't they?
Is it not because your display is
because
set to
I'm
raster?
displayed set to raster? No, because scaled drawings are raster by default. So this is actually pulling an image.
Okay.
But the cool thing is that you can have more control. For example, under pattern fill, you can change the scale. So if this scale is too big, I can go 0.5. Or if I wanted to rotate it, I could just really simply go 45. Do you see what I mean? So you do have a measure of control with the pattern fill. Even I think, I don't think you control the opacity. That's okay. You get it. So yeah, there's a reason why you may want to do this in layout. Of course, if you did it in layout, you wouldn't be able to get different angles from the same piece of geometry. You would have to, you'd just be stuck with the 2D. It'd just be like drawing in CAD. You would be kind of giving up the 3D, sort of the 3D aspects of that. Now, if this one looks a little bit blurry, don't forget that SketchUp here, we have draft mode. Like for example, when I export this, later at the end, maybe we'll export it. It's going to look much cleaner. What it's doing is it's a low resolution display so that it can, just so that things can work faster. So if you see that and you're like, ooh, that looks really bad, that's just the display resolution. Don't worry about it. Cool?
Yeah.
I'm going to cut this staircase up a little bit more just because now I'm looking at my page layout. This is where it becomes kind of fun because you get to kind of go back and forth between, you can kind of lay things out like, okay, I want to shift that up. Okay, this one here, I really like that everything is contained. You can see that everything is, even though we went from 3D to 2D, you're like, well, you're losing a lot of that work that you did in 3D, but not really, because you're still getting the ambient occlusion shadows, which gives depth, and what you're getting is this one model. Right now I'm using it 3 times. 1, 2, 3. So
yeah,
something.
So if you made a change to it or whatever, it would show up in all 3.
Yeah, exactly. And same thing from here. Even if I don't know that this helps me, but if I wanted to show it one more with the stair cut, I don't know that this helps too much, but just for fun, you can show it one with the underground stuff and you can show it one, without, because this is really how you're going to see it. This is because you're not going to see the underground stuff. This is why you're going to see it, and then this is how you're going to help build it. So you can always kind of pick and choose. If I turn my plant symbol off, I just like that we have a lot of control, because to be honest with you, I don't know. I always say, I don't really know. I like to play around, and I like to kind of look at stuff and say, how does that feel? I guess if you've been doing CAD for so long, you just you take a CAD detail from your CAD standards, you put it on your page, and then you change the text to make sure that it's reflecting the model. And there's nothing wrong with that, but at the same time, it's kind of like that's the opposite of control. That's like having a standard, where you just use the standard, use the standard. Here, I like this idea because I actually have some measure of control where I get to decide how I want to communicate my details, and I may or may not want to go this far, or I may want to pull back, I may want to push a little bit further. And whether I choose to do this at the end of the day is sort of maybe haven't decided, but I love knowing that I can. Excuse me for a second.
Yeah, no, 100%. Good to have the flexibility in case you need it. There are some people in the chat saying that it would be nice to have a search for the layout patterns, like within the pattern fill. Although it seems like you don't really use the layout patterns as much as just kind of import the SketchUp textures. Is that fair to say, or would you also appreciate the search in the pattern?
What I would like is columns. Like for example, like in Mac, I think PC has this too, where you can go, in this case, drawing 3D model. right? So for me, that's a really fast way to find things when you have a lot of things. I think I would agree that this pattern fill, you have a choice between list or icons. And I think what I've found is that by doing that, then you have to go back up to the drop down to figure where you are. So I would love actually columns or search, and I think either one of those would help. Because to be honest with you, I don't use them enough to know the difference between what is in black line work and what is in, well, maybe that's not a good example, but site patterns, for example, the difference between tonal and site patterns. I know that there's one that I really like, and I can't remember. Yeah, I can't remember where it is. Is it in sketchy pen lines or is it in standard lines? I don't know. So I think we do take your suggestions seriously. I know some of you might think, oh, I've been asking for this one feature for years, but the reality is we do. Layout has had some major changes recently and will continue to, and who knows, maybe we'll get that one.
Yeah. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. So I'm just going to go ahead and put some text on it. Just because it's going to make it feel a little bit more finished. Just to kind of try to make it look a little more finished. Okay. And then this one would go here. And then this would be like so. Yeah. So Matt, what else do you think we should do? Should we add a person for scale?
Yeah, I think a person's good.
Okay.
Is there anything, chat, that you want to see? Ivan did say if you have time to do a clipping mask in layout, it's a good tool for details, and some people might not know how to do those.
Yeah, and I was also gonna, if we have time, I have the model that this sort of planter stair comes from. So I thought maybe we could do something like a key map so that we can sort of show the relationship to the detail to the plan so that we know that the fact, and I'm also looking at the time and I'm thinking, well, we probably don't have enough time to go back and do more of these, but I kind of picked the most interesting one. I mean, you can see that from here on, it's a variation of a theme, right? So now instead of, we have higher planter wall or retaining wall, now we have one where we have a grass edge condition versus whatever, flagstone paving edge condition. So a lot of these are what I would call variations on a theme. And I love building a kit of parts that then you can take this, you can kind of take this and copy it and then modify, right? The other thing I thought about doing too is, that reminds me while I'm in here, is if I do something like this, if I turn on my X-ray mode, you'll notice that it's a little bit hard to see here, but you'll notice that sometimes there's some information like where the rebar is. Like you can see there's like a dashed line in here, right there. And then there's some, so what we could do is I could put either some callouts on just to kind of fill the page. We can talk about some things in layout, or I can go in and add. That's something where you could technically draw a dashed line and just put it on a dashed line layer. Or if it's really specific and you want to be able to control the scale, the problem is that you may not be able to control the scale of that dashed line as well in SketchUp. So if you were in, for example, layout here, it would be pretty easy. You would just come over here and draw this line. I want to go to the stroke line dashed, and I'm going to put the stroke at like 3 point. See 3 thickness. That might be too thick. And then I'm going to curve it here. Oops, not there. Click down, curve it there, and then click down again. So what I'm going to do is change the, excuse me if I zoom in and out too much. Let's go with 2 as a thickness. 2 is probably better. Fun little trick I kind of forgot about. If you want to mirror something in, you can mirror in layout just like you can in SketchUp. You just type in, you just use the move tool and type in -1. one thing I've been asking for layout, so something, again, speaking of feature requests, I'm always thinking about things that we can add. And one of those would be components in layout, which is kind of crazy. And maybe somebody would say, well, no, don't do that. But for example, like if I'm doing these rebar symbols as lines in layout, if I like did a bunch of work to one of them to get it really fancy and layered, I may want to make that a component and then copy it different symbols. Or again, that kind of goes to show maybe that's something that happens inside of SketchUp, and then that way you have that as a component and it just shows it. Maybe
yeah, very cool.
Maybe 1.5. All right, that's cool. Yeah, so what I want to do is I want to pull these to the side really quick. And yeah, so there's a lot. Oh, what did I do? You guys you didn't catch me on this, but I think I copied or moved this here. Section. And I'm just going to take the word view out and just call it plan and section. So what I'm going to do is once I'm happy, I can group this. Now, one thing I want to do is also think about the layering. I've been, let's look at something really quick that's kind of interesting. It's to create depth. This won't take very long. So right now I have everything on the same depth. Now Aaron used fog to kind of say, look, anything that sort of goes into the background can kind of be faded. And I thought, well, that's cool, but what if I wanted to like really control just this one thing? And maybe this isn't worth doing, but I did play around and I think it's a fun kind of thing to learn just to know how to do. So if you go here like this, for example, like these plants, you'll notice that they're the same line weight that everything else is. So it's the same line color. So even if the plants are not the most important part of this construction detail, they're reading as if they're just as important as everything else. So what I might come into is my styles and create a new one. This would be the section cut, duplicate that, and I would call this faded or fade. And the reason why is that if you go to edit the line itself, I can come over here and do something like this. So it's like a nice light gray. And I'm doing that so you can see what's happening is that anything that's on the fade style pushes the color of the line weight way back. And then let's see if this works. So I'm going to copy this viewport, and then I'm going to update my model reference. You can see that new style just came in. So if I go to my new style, this one is called fade. You can see that it's now pushing the plants to the background. But if I want that footing to be a little bit more and the handrail, excuse me, to be a little bit more detailed, I can put that back to the foreground. And then I can go turn my plant symbol off. Do you see that, Matt?
Ah, okay, very nice.
It's a little visual trick, and it seems like maybe that's not worth the amount of time it took me to do that. But imagine doing this again. You only have to do this once, because once you set this up, these styles up, you can apply them anywhere. But what I did is I did a stacked viewport. So one with a background using a faded line work, and one with a foreground using a non-faded line work. And I know that in CAD, you wouldn't do it that way. You would assign a pen style to it so that it would look like yellow or blue in CAD, but then when you go to plot it, it would only be when you plot it would you see that color. So since everything we see is in real time, what you see is what you get in layout here, we actually have to take an extra step to fade those lines back. Because you can't just click a line and say fade and say make these plants transparent. We actually have to create a style and do that. So it's cool though. I think it was cool to be able to do that.
Yeah, 100%. Kegi says that's a great tip.
Yeah, and then of course it all just depends on how you've organized your model, because if you have things that are supposed to be, you could just create a layer called beyond, and then or a tag in SketchUp, call that beyond, and then everything you put on that, you can just assign, you just turn everything off except the beyond or the background, and then anything on the background gets basically, that's, you have two viewports, one that's back, one that's front. So it's a little subtle thing, but it does make it kind of makes a big difference. It can make a big difference. Okay, cool. So let's do this. I'm going to finish up here by showing that this is not, these details are not done in isolation, but they're done as part of a bigger project. So let me, speaking of bigger projects, let's find that. And I'm just gonna, I haven't done any work to this, so this is just kind of as it is. I'm just gonna drag and drop this lake house model, and we're gonna focus just on the terrace that these section details came from. Now, normally I would go into the model. This is a little bit of a heavy model because it's got architecture and it's got V-Ray stuff and it's got landscape and it's got mountain ranges and context and all this stuff. So what I'm going to do, instead of opening up the model, setting the scenes and stuff, I'm going to do something that I don't normally do. Which
we're on the wild side over here.
We're playing, you know me, I like to play a little fast and loose. What I want to do is turn off anything that's V-Ray related. I want to turn off people onto.
This is behind your head, by the way, so can't exactly see.
Sorry, my tags. You get what I'm saying. Okay, so let me just close. That's a good point. Let me close those up. So all I'm doing is just toggling some tags. I'm overriding it. So I'm simplifying what's in the model, and I don't even need, in this case, I probably don't even need. I might even just turn the trees and stuff off. So what I really kind of want is, if I wanted to show this in aerial and I didn't want to go into SketchUp and open the model and take the time, I could cheat and do this. If all I wanted to do was show where this stair is in context, I could just grab a view like that.
Mm-hmm.
Or if I wanted to show it more in relationship to sort of the larger property, I might come over here and go ortho and under standard views top and override it and then do something like, do something like that, and then set a scale, just because you always want to make sure that you have a proper scale. So maybe 1 inch equals 10 feet, something like that. Now this is kind of a bit large for a key map, but I think what it's doing is it's showing hang on. Now I want to grab all of this stuff and shift that up so that it's not overlapping my title. Oh, so somebody mentioned clipping mask. Mm-hmm. So like, for example, this is an upper terrace and a lower terrace, but this lower terrace has this weird line right here. So if I just kind of wanted to clip that out, I would just basically grab everything that I want to show. So not what I don't want to show, everything that I want to show. And if I switch that to a fill instead of a stroke, you could see anything that's not within this clipping mask will get clipped out. So I just grab my SketchUp model and I grab my clipping mask, which is just a gray shape, and I come down here to create, let me try it again, create clipping mask. And you can see what it did is it cropped everything out so that I'm only seeing the deck. And the cool thing about that is then I could kind of grab some text here and I could paste this something like this and call this lower terrace. Maybe I'll center that text just for OCD sake. And I'm not really, this isn't the main point of this diagram. This is really just like a large key map. So that's why I'm not making sure this is perfect. And I would say something like upper terrace and maybe split that into 2. Yeah, it takes a little bit of finagling to get your text perfect, but then once you get it, it looks pretty good. And then the thing that I'm really wanting to kind of call attention to is I'm going to grab a rounded rectangle, and I kind of want to just place this here. And then I want to kind of call attention to the fact that let's see, what angle should I do for this? 20? Nope. 10, 2, 3, 4. Got it. So we're going to go through all. We're going to just one by
10, 2, 3, 4. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. So the idea is that it's sort of calling attention to these are the stairs, 1, 2, and 3. And if I wanted to dimension them, you know, for example, and say, well, this one is going to be 185 inches. Of course, I may want to change. I may want to actually, before I do that, come into my dimension settings. Dim, maybe go from fractional to architectural, precision to 1 inch. Center that. Center that. So when I go to lay this out, let's try this. That should be good. That's kind of an odd number, but let's go with 15.5. 4 foot. And then lastly, we have this one here, which is 3 foot. And while we're at some dimensions, we'll just throw a couple of dimensions on here before we call this done. 6 inch. I like, there we go, 6 inch. And then if you, instead of having to call each one out, this is auto text, so space typical. And then that would be, each of those would be 6 inch typical. And then we want to do for the run, we could say, again, instead of being architectural, we might switch to fractional because we're dealing with such small numbers. Typical. So I'm trying to act like I know what I'm doing here. Does it look like it? Does it look like I know what I'm doing?
It absolutely does to me.
Hire me, guys. Hire me to do your construction document sets. Actually, to be honest with you, don't.
Why not?
No, it's not. I appreciate the art of it, and I know how important it is, but I do want to say that like my brain does live a little bit more in the big idea side of things, and so it's just like, for example, like the rebar spacing, you know, is it 2 inch or is it 4 inch on center? And somebody needs to know that, and somebody cares a lot more than I do about whether it's 4 inch or 2 inch. So that's why I just say that that's great. That's why we work together as a team. So what I want to do is basically say here, I want to call out here, just put a little call out. It says C location, plan for width, and then I would need to put this, I would probably need to copy that, paste it, pastes in place, and give that a title, location plan. So how are we doing on time? I think we're about ready to call it. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, no, I think this was very informative. A lot of good tips in here, and yeah, this was a fun one.
Hang on, I'm going to do one thing. It won't take long. I'm saving it. That's why it's taking a second. So that's why my spinning beach ball is in. I want to see if this works. I want to split this right there. I don't want to delete that. Although, no, maybe I don't want to do that. Maybe what I should do is give this a fill and then bring this to front. There we go. What do you think? See what
solving problems.
Yeah, okay. Otherwise, that's going to bug me. Okay, so listen, folks, let's wrap up. Folks, I don't know why I say that. Sorry, community members.
Folks is good. There's nothing wrong with folks.
Everybody watching. Let's just kind of decompress, because as always, I throw a lot of stuff out and I see what sticks, and some stuff sticks and some stuff doesn't. And I think it helps to spend the last couple minutes just kind of recapping what worked, what didn't, and you know, again, I'm not going to go over this in detail. You were all here. You can always scrub back. We're evergreen. We keep this live on. We keep this on YouTube. But I do want to kind of reinforce the point that you have stylistically, we have a lot of choice. We could either keep something simple black and white, we can override the materials using color by tag, or we can be more photorealistic. Like if this is a piece from your model and you already have materials applied to it, grab that, bring it in, you can build the detail straight from there. Same thing, like I mentioned, kit of parts, thinking about things like components, thinking about how things are grouped or nested. We can reuse something as simple as just this handrail, even if we are building a guardrail on a different part of the terrace. We bring that same thing in with all its attributes, its materials, its naming, all that stuff comes together. So the more we do this, the more we work on things like this and build these details, the richer our little library becomes. And I don't have to spend 2 hours building out a detail sheet. I could probably do it in about 10, 15 minutes. So, but when we are starting from scratch and when we are talking through it and playing around and trying different things, it takes a little bit longer the first time. So I'm going to stop there. I'm going to let you all ask. Was there any last minute questions, Matt? Any concerns, any issues? If you want to call me out and say, hey, don't do it that way, this is your time, because I'm going to cut you off here in a minute. And let me know how to go.
I think it went great. A lot of good people echoing that in the chat as well. Nick saying likes the AO helping the below grade detail pop. And I definitely agree with that. The ambient occlusion helps whenever you have a section or an elevation view, for sure. Show a little bit more depth and relation of things to each other. How do you feel that what you got done today turned out? Is it what you were expecting to get done, and did it turn out like you were hoping?
Yeah, you know, I try not to expect a lot, because then I'll get because I like, in a way, yeah, I mean, I want to make sure that we have what I think of as a coherent process. So if we don't finish it, it's okay, but if we don't get far enough, kind of bugs me a little bit, and I think we did. I think from where we started in SketchUp with just this little working file, you know, with just this, we started with just a simple little 2D section cut, essentially, coming straight from CAD. And we ended with, I think, a pretty cool little sheet set. Can't really see it because of your chat. Some of the chat comments are covering it. But yeah, I'm happy. And that's it. I think I'm okay. I'm okay to call it. I think we made it. We did it. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Thanks, everybody, for just letting me think out loud. Thank you, Matt, for keeping me on task and for relaying all the cool comments and things that are coming through.
Yeah, sure. Let me just a couple last things before we say goodbye to everybody. If you like this video, hit the like button down below. We want to make sure that you know, that is heard. So hit the thumbs up. We also have two ongoing things you can submit your work for. One being the community art gallery for 3D Basecamp, which is SketchUp's in-person event that's going to happen in November in Las Vegas. So check that out for sure. And then we also have our coffee shop challenge. Take this coffee shop model that we constructed through a collaborative model over 5 or 6 different live sessions similar to this one, and take it and make it your own. Visualize it in your own style and show us what you got. So yeah, those are the places to share your cool work. And I'll drop the link as well for the coffee shop.
Yeah, and we don't usually plug our lives, but for those that maybe if you want some, you don't have to, because again, you may want to come in clean, but if you do want to go back, I would always say check out how we got there. There are some videos that do go in and talk about the collaborative modeling process that we used together to make that, and that was pretty cool. That was a pretty cool little process that we did as a team here at SketchUp. So with that, we are right on time. I'm going to say thank you all for watching. As always, we'll see you next time. I think we don't know who's up next week, but come back, check our forum. We always announce it a couple of days at least before we go live, so you can see what we're modeling, who's modeling. And either way, join us next week at the same time, and we'll do it all over again. You ready, Matt? You ready for some music?
I'm ready. Yeah. Have a great weekend, everybody. And thanks to you, Eric, for another great stream.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, everybody. Happy Friday. Have a good weekend. Enjoy it. Stay safe. Cheers.